you for the next 15 minutes or so to explain, of course, what are we seeing updates, what's the trend, what's new, what remains the same, all of that as well. And we're going to continue to, of course, give you these updates either in a show or hourly updates kind of leading up to the event so that you all can plan out and be prepared for the impacts that will be expected as we go into this weekend. So without further ado, let's jump into those details. So we are looking at weather impact alert days, and it's going to run Saturday afternoon all the way through Tuesday morning. Why? Yes, we're seeing the winter storm through the weekend, but we are going to see impacts outside of that into early next week because of how bitterly cold the temperatures are. That'll be another area of Arctic high pressure moving in across the area, and that's going to anchor down that cold air. We're going to drop into single-digit temperatures, actual air temperature Tuesday morning into single digits, and then, of course, it could feel below zero if we get any breeze. So that's why we've extended it all the way through Tuesday morning. Impact. We've been talking about this extensively. Travel. There will be impact. There is no way we escape this system. It is not just going to disappear. We're going to have to deal with the impacts that it gives us. And the best way to do that is to prepare ahead of time and be smart and to take it very seriously. Power outages will be possible. They could potentially be widespread even across the Triad, as we're going to see significant ice accumulation, as you'll see here in just a moment. Arctic chill. Again, I talked about that. That's why we've extended it through Tuesday morning because of the extreme cold temperatures. We're not getting above freezing air temperature-wise until maybe Wednesday. That's how long stay the cold is going to be. So what do you need to do? You need to get the supplies now, last a few days. Be prepared to be stuck where you're at, whether that's a hotel, whether that's at your house. You need to be prepared to be stuck for a little bit because we are going to see sleet and significant sleet accumulation as well as ice accumulation. Be prepared to potentially lose power. You want to protect your pipes from the cold air as well. And there's several really great resources, of course, that you can check out. Who Wants to Know, our website, WFMYnews2.com. And Tanya Rivera has some excellent resources there for you to dive into. So that is what we're talking winter alert-wise. Let's look at our storm. It's huge. It's a massive winter storm. We are talking winter storm warning stretching from basically extreme western near El Paso, Texas, all the way up through parts just not so much coastal Carolina, but central North Carolina. And so that is a huge storm. And there will be lots of impacts felt outside the Carolinas, but we're focusing in on our impacts, which will most likely be in the form of sleet and also ice as well. And so we will see at least the potential here. Winter storm watch remains in effect through Monday afternoon for the entire viewing area, the entire Piedmont Triad, the entire Carolinas. It's an expansive winter storm watch. Now with these, they can go one of two ways. We can go winter storm warning, as we're talking maybe sleet, snow mix impacts, or you can go on the other side of the coin, which is ice storm warning. And you could see some of those actually kind of issued back across parts towards, say, western Tennessee, right? That pink color was the ice storm warning. And so our ice storm warning criteria is a 1/4 inch of ice or more. And we could see that across a good portion of our viewing area. So be surprised to not necessarily go from this winter storm watch to winter storm warning. We could go ice storm warning. If the National Weather Service thinks the criteria is going to be met. So don't be surprised about that. Let's talk about the difference between snow. We know what that is, right? Snowflake falls all the way down through the ground. It's all freezing. We don't have to worry about any warm air. Now we start introducing warm air, and depending on the depth of that warm air and the depth of the cold air, changes the type of precipitation. So you have snow falling 10,000 feet, all the way down to about 5,000 feet, and then it hits a small layer of warm air, and then that melts partially, the snowflake, and then it falls back into below freezing air and refreezes, and you get sleet. Sleet, the big difference between it and graupel is you're going to be able to hear the sleet bouncing off of you. Graupel also does the same thing, but it looks like Dippin' Dots or styrofoam balls. Sleet is going to look more like ice pellets, and you'll hear it. If you stick your sleeve out and you're in the middle of a sleet storm, you'll hear the tick, 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 as it's bouncing off of things. And then it gets onto the roadways and creates quite the mess, which is why we're going to have, in part, hazardous travel Saturday night into Sunday morning, and then freezing rain takes over. So that's sleet. Now we're going to increase the depth of warm air quite a bit. So we're going to have the snowflakes falling and then maybe encountering a layer of warm air at about, say, 7,000 feet, all the way through 5,000 feet and close to the surface. We're going to melt the entire snowflake into a raindrop, and then it's going to fall towards the surface, and it doesn't have enough time to refreeze into those snow pellets. So what does it do? It freezes on contact with anything, whether it would be a porch, whether it would be a bridge, an overpass, your car. Anything that's going to be below freezing outside, it will start to glaze over, and that's going to make roads an ice rink, and very dangerous. I don't care how experienced of a driver you are. I've been saying this, and I'm going to continue to say it. You don't mess around with ice. You stay home. You stay off the roads, and we're going to see that greatest potential into our Sunday. So that's kind of the difference between precipitation types and a little bit about the science behind it and why we're going to see those different things. So now you remember that, and as I show you this, kind of remember what you just saw. So as we go into our Saturday evening, I do believe there will be a brief window of maybe a burst of snow in the parts of the Triad. As look at these temperatures. I mean, 6:30 Saturday evening, the wedge is going to be alive and well, and it's going to be in place. We're talking 16 to 18 degrees, teens across the area. That's some very, very cold air at the surface. And so, yes, we'll initially start off all below freezing, so we could see a quick burst of snow. But then the warm air starts to increase, and we start to see it right up above and erode some of that cold air. And now we're going to start to stick ourselves into sleet territory, where we get that small little layer of warm air it falls through and partially melts and then refreezes before it hits the ground, thanks to the depth of cold air at the surface, which is extensive. 16 degrees, that's cold. So yes, we have a decent amount of cold air, and it will be continually being replenished through the event as well. Notice your northeasterly wind flow. That continues to strengthen and replenish the area of cold air at the surface, thanks to the high to the north across New England. So that's one of the big setups that we need, right? We need that high pressure. We need to get the wind to direct itself coming in kind of from the northeast. It locks in that cold air at the surface, and then we're basically going to bring warm air up over that. So I think Saturday night, through a good portion of the evening and overnight, we're going to have sleet. And that'll accumulate on area roadways, of course, your elevated grassy surfaces, anything. It'll look like ice pellets on the roads and then on your, porch and things like that. You'll be able to tell it's sleet. For the most part, it'll be translucent. Can't rule out a little bit drier being trapped in there and getting a little more white. But for the most part, it'll be translucent. And again, you'll hear it. Tick, 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 tick. And you think I'm making up those noises. That is what it sounds like if you go out in a sleet storm. Once it starts sleeting here, I'll try to remember to post a video, and there you go. You'll be able to hear it. You'll know it's sleeting. So temperature is still in the low 20s by the time we get into Sunday morning. This is the question that we still need to figure out, that we need to watch model trends. And of course, the hurricane hunters have actually been helping us out with that. They've been sampling the atmosphere in the Gulf back towards the west, and really getting in all that information into our models so that we can start getting a good idea of the type of air that's going to be riding over us and how deep it is and how warm it is, because that's going to affect the forecast quite a bit. If we bring in a lot of warm air very quickly, then we won't have so much a sleet storm, as we will start to transition over to freezing rain. And you see these gaps in there. There's the data timing out as we go towards Sunday afternoon. That's not necessarily a good thing. You might be like, hooray, it's starting to light up. No, not necessarily a good thing. Drier air in this case could switch from freezing rain, which hits an object and then runs off, to freezing drizzle, which accumulates on everything. And that could continue for several hours through the rest of our Sunday afternoon into the evening hours, and that is going to bring significant ice accumulation potentially. So not good news. This model definitely showing maybe a switch from that freezing rain through the morning hours to more freezing drizzle towards the afternoon and evening, and we'll just continue that as we go through the rest of the afternoon, really into the evening. Not good news at all. Let's talk about your threats, because there definitely will be threats. Sleet, again, expected to start really towards the 6 p.m. We'll see that brief transition of snow, or that brief burst of snow, I should say, and then it'll transition over to sleet as we go into the late evening hour Saturday into our Sunday morning, and then lasting for a time into Sunday morning. How long? If the sleet lasts a lot longer, that's less time for the freezing rain to accumulate. If we start to rapidly switch from sleet overnight to freezing rain into the morning, watch out. That's where we're really going to start to see significant impacts. We'll see significant impacts regardless, but we'll see more of the freezing rain, more of the ice accumulation if we see that transition occur faster on Sunday. So high impacts, especially towards the afternoon and evening. Roads are going to become impassable because of the ice. It'll become skating rinks, especially with the sleet and then ice on top of that. So snow, sleet, and then ice on top of that. Very dangerous indeed. And then as we go into Monday, we'll start to taper off the freezing rain. Freezing drizzle could linger a little bit into past the midnight hour on Monday into early Monday morning. And again, as long as that freezing drizzles continue, it's going to accrete ice. Dangerous travel will be likely as we go from Sunday, really Sunday morning, all the way for the next couple of days into early next week. Power outages could become more widespread and more problematic as the longer we see the icing event occur, because as the longer we see the icing event, the longer we're going to see or give the chance for the ice to grow, to thicken on things, to really increase the weight of those objects, trees and power lines and infrastructure, things like that, start increasing the weight quite a bit, and that could cause failure to those things and structurally and fall apart. So that's what we're talking about there. Very briefly here before we wrap up, I'm going to go over this is a snow sleet forecast, primarily sleet. And then the ice will accumulate on top of this sleet. So if you're closer to the Virginia state line, you're going to get closer to the 2 to 4 range. As you start coming further south, you start getting into a little more warm air sooner. So you're looking at 1 to 2 inches of sleet, maybe some snow mixing in with that. And then to the south, maybe a coating to about an inch of some of that sleet and snow mix. And again, on top of that, we're going to be putting significant amounts of ice on here. We're talking 1/10 to 1/4 inch along the state line, North Carolina, Virginia, and then we're also looking at 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch, really for the Triad proper, from say Winston-Salem to Greensboro, Alamance, Burlington down to Lexington. That is winter storm criteria. Again, 1/4 inch of ice or more, winter storm criteria. So don't be surprised to see parts of our region encompassed into a winter storm warning. And then 1/2 inch of ice that is just unimaginable weight and damage and infrastructure failure. And that could be on the southern edge of our viewing area and extend all the way down towards Charlotte as well. So those are the main things. Beyond that, we are going to be going to an extended period of cold air. As we go into really our weekend, through the weekend.